So this is my going to be my first attempt at some knife making. I picked this knife kit up from Ron and Linda Hock at Woodworking In American last year, and it should be an interesting project. I didn't take a picture of it in its packaging, but here we have the blade and the 3 rivets that came with it. I'm probably actually going to do something a little bit different on the rivets, but we'll dive more into that as I get into this project. I want to do something a little bit more than just add a pair of scales to this, so I'm thinking about attaching some brass and making it a little bit more like some of my other kitchen knives with a little bit more heft and some weight to it. It's a pretty thick knife, it's pretty heavy, so I don't want to add a lot of mass, but if I add some brass to it, it'll shift the balance point a little bit and make it a little bit more to my liking. But and it'll just look pretty cool, I think. So I'm going to dive into this and see where we go from there. The way I'm setting this up is I've taken the angle that the blade meets the handle, and I'm just going to replicate that, going up as kind of a general guide. And a lot of people glue the steel and then scratch it. These are just very temporary lines. I don't really need anything, so this metal is so nicely finished that a nice pencil line is all I really need. There you go, it's enough to see. I haven't drilled the bottom hole. Yet, mostly because I snapped my drill bit, and another one should be in later today. I'll finish up drilling, but I just want to get this going, see how it's working, see how everything's working out. I think that's going to work nicely. So that's the angle that I had marked off earlier when I cut my brass, just as a matter of making it a little bit easier. So let me polish up the edge and then I'll go from there, make sure we got a nice flat fit, and then we'll work on pinning those pieces of brass to the blade. Alright, so there's probably a more correct way to do this, but being not a machinist, I drew my line, I'm positioning my piece of brass after I've gotten it perfectly flat. I'm just holding it really tight, and I'm just going to center punch it. So, yeah, center punch it and drill it. Make sure I didn't move anything. Adjust it as needed. Okay, and then center punch the other hole. So I got 2 marks, and I guess I will just go drill those on the drill press. Seems like the best way. Alright, so I got 1 hole drilled. I've positioned it. I'm just going to flip it over and mark the 2nd hole. Looks like positioning is still good. And just back to the drill press and drill that hole, and we should be good to go. And we'll use the first one as a guide to drill the 2nd one. So, yay! Alright, well, I got the first piece of brass fitted, got it pushed through. I'm just going to saw these off flush, and then we'll be ready to fit the other side of the brass. Certainly scratching up the face of the brass, but that's not a big deal because it's all getting sanded down, shaped anyway, so No big deal at all. On a side note, this saw is kind of amazing. I've only ever had flea market saws before, and I had a gift card to Amazon and decided to kind of finally splurge on this new concept because I was going to do this metal work. I know it's totally not necessary for what I'm doing, but this thing kind of rocks, so yay. Plus on the fret saw. So don't need this fancy tool for the amount of work I do on metal work, but it'll come in handy for woodworking and dovetails and other joinery cuts too, so cool. So I've got the knife clamped up with the pieces of brass in place. I'm just going to use the previous piece of brass as a guide bushing for my drill bit, just so that they line up with the, even if it's not perfectly straight on the perfectly plumb all the way through the brass, at least it'll line up, and it doesn't really matter how straight they are, because they're going to be just peened and ground down. You shouldn't even be able to see them really. So see how this goes. Just got the drill bit, a little bit of lubrication oil. You don't really need it on the brass, but better safe than sorry. So. Seems to be cutting well. Alright, I've actually switched to a titanium coated bit because it's just way more efficient at clearing the chips than the cobalt spade bit was. You'll see this will go actually much faster. So if you're doing this, tip to self, use the cobalt or the spade bit when you're doing hardened metal, but when it comes to brass, these work just fine. Brass is a real soft metal. Alright, so basically what I've done is, after a little bit of grinding, I've imparted a taper in two directions. One to basically just save myself a lot of work once I got the scales and everything on. So I guess at this point it's time to attach these to the knife and attach the scales and start the actual handle shaping. So should be interesting. Alright, so I got some Wingate scales I'm going to use. I found the grain section I like the best. And I cut a matching angle that matches up with this angle. And I'm just going to lay it on here and trace an outline with a pencil. Then take it over to the bandsaw and just kind of rough it out, just so I don't have near as much to grind down. I'm not going to get real close on the bandsaw, mostly because I'm going to do a lot of shaping and want to make sure that I get everything positioned right. So just get some basic outlines, which you probably can't see on the camera. Alright, that should be all there is to it. Time to work on the bandsaw. Alright, and after some drilling, we got a basic handle on. Now I just need to clean it up a little bit and mix some epoxy and get this thing glued up, and we should be ready to actually get this thing together permanently and start shaping the handle. It's been kind of a fun little project so far. Alright, so I got everything flushed up to the metal. The scales are good and handle's looking pretty good. I'm going to run a round over bit around the top and bottom of it just to start to get the initial shape of it. I'll do the final shaping by hand with sandpaper and rasps and files, but I'm just going to get an initial shape going here, make it a little bit more consistent and even. Well, I got the brass attached and just some basic shaping done. I've chucked it up into my vise and I'm going to get some sandpaper out and start working from there. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've got it sanded up through 120. Just do some final shaping on 120, and then we'll run up through the grits and get this sucker finished. Alright, I'm here at the drill press and I have a buffing wheel and some white rouge on it, and I'm going to go ahead and shine this sucker up and see how it goes. It's starting to look pretty nice. And there we go. Lighting's not real great in here for this, but turned out pretty nice. Still can see the rivets a little bit where I pinned them in. I'll get better at that. My tolerances just weren't quite high enough and I didn't expand the metal quite enough, but it's pretty good for a first attempt. I'm gonna go ahead and apply some finish to the handle and should be good to go. This was sweet. This was a fun project. I'm gonna have to do more of these.